Hey there, hope you're doing well. In this video, let's talk about asynchronous processing and when you might want to, do asynchronous work as opposed to synchronous work, right? So there's two ways to look at that. I don't know if there's really a correct answer. It just depends on your school of thought. I've seen a lot of people generally start out with solving problems in a synchronous manner. And let's take an example so it makes a little bit more sense, right? Let's take our product Snowpal, our web platform. When you go to snowpal.com and let's say you're collaborating with, you create content, say you're a YouTuber and you want to collaborate with your cast or crew. So you're going to create some blocks or pods and then you're going to share those resources with your co-workers or friends or family or collaborators, etc., right? Whatever you want to call them. When you do that, we do a few things. One of the things we do is we send them a notification. We send them a push notification on their mobile devices if they have them registered. In addition to it, we also send them notifications on the web, right? So if they're also actively using the app at that point of time, or if they're not using it at that given instant of time, but they sign back in to check out things later, they would see a notification. Now that's a pretty simple example, right? So let's take that example and dig a little deeper. Let's say I am going to share scene 1 with someone I'm working with, right? Let's call that person Vikram. I'm going to share scene 1 with Vikram and then Vikram is going to get a notification. Now we could have done this two ways. Let me talk about the synchronous manner. You go to the web app, you essentially pick the resource, you search, find the resource and then you hit share. You look for the person you want to share it with and then you find them. You click the share button and before you do that you can kind of pick the ACL, the level of access control you want to give them. Do you want to give Vikram read access or do you want to give Vikram write access or do you want to make Vikram an admin just like you are? They get different sets of, they can do a different set of things depending on their access control essentially, right? So for purposes of this discussion, let's say I granted Vikram admin access, so Vikram is going to get a notification. What essentially could have happened if we were to have done this in a synchronous manner, and by saying that I've given you the answer, so we don't do it in a synchronous way, but let me get to it in a second. We send from the browser, we make a request to our UI tier, and from there we propagate the request to our microservices. One of them handles notifications, right? So that gets the request. And it's going to do a few things, grant access to that user. So the data model has to respect the fact that Vikram now can access this resource at a certain access level. That's one of the things we need to do. There's a few other things, but in addition to that, we now need to send Vikram a notification, right? N number of notifications, maybe push notification, maybe notifications on their web browser, etc. We could have done this real time, meaning asynchronously, meaning the API gets a request. It's not a new resource, it's an existing resource, so it's a patch request. So you get the resource and we say grant certain level of access control. API gets the request after it goes through these numerous tiers from a distributed architecture standpoint. When it gets the request, it can do all of them one after the other, or however it ends up doing it, and then it can send a response back to the browser, right? All the way through. It would be a 200 with the response saying, hey, the share happened, and whatnot, whatever the contract is between the UI and API tiers. That's fine, that'll work. But what happens is there are things that you're doing as part of this action that the user is now waiting on. Let's say it took an additional 15-20 milliseconds for those notifications to be created or for them to have gotten sent out. The user is actually now waiting for that to happen. Sure, 20 milliseconds is not the end of the world. You might say, what's the big deal? But those numbers add up, right? And again, plus it's not a question of 20 is still a big number. You don't want to keep the user waiting any longer than they really have to be kept waiting. So if we were to have done this synchronously, they would have had to wait that extra 20 seconds. That's one problem. There's several repercussions of the same architectural or design pattern issue. I'm just talking about one of them. Now let's compare that with the asynchronous processing just to understand a very simple use case, right? We get the request of the API as an API. Now we have to do certain set of these things synchronously, because I mean you could argue that, hey, why not the API just get the request and then send no response back to the browser. That's possible in some cases, but not in all cases, because sometimes you want to get you want to send an act back, an acknowledgement, an ID, whatever it is that tells the client, the UI client or the mobile client that, hey, you know what, this action succeeded. There are times you cannot always send like a 204 back with no response. So in that case, what you have to do, what is the least minimum that you could or you should do synchronously? We want to make the changes to that, whatever it is that you need to do on a Mongo or a NoSQL standpoint. In our case, it's MongoDB. So Vikram actually does have access to the resource. We would do that synchronously. Everything else, including but not just limited to notifications, we don't have to do it synchronously, because when Krish is sharing something, collaborating with Vikram, Krish's job is done once that access has been granted. Vikram's the one who gets the notifications. Why should Krish has to wait even for those extra additional 20 milliseconds? It makes no sense, right? So we do that activity and those types of activities asynchronously. Now that we've gotten that very simple example, I don't know how long it took for me to explain that, maybe 3 to 4 minutes, but hopefully you got the idea. Let's talk about the approach and the two schools of thought. You could always start out solving a problem synchronously, do it real time, and then if things don't work, if it's not performant, it doesn't scale, and you run into other kinds of issues, maybe performance and scalability related issues, or maybe even functionality related issues or gaps, you could say, okay, now you want to go back and make some changes to make it asynchronous. That's one way of going about things, not necessarily what I would recommend. And again, it's two schools of thought. There's pros and cons with each of these approaches, just like everything else in life. But you always want to ask yourselves this question, right? You want to ask yourself the question, hey, can I be doing what I'm going to be doing asynchronously? Can it be distributed? If the answer to that is yes, and you want to try to get the answer as close to yes as possible, then I would recommend that you do it that way, because you actually set yourself up for a lot more success and less refactoring by virtue of taking that approach. And that's what I generally, I like to err on the side of distributed computing and asynchronous processing, just to take one specific use case. And if I then find out that, okay, you know what was asynchronous previously now has to be done real time, I make the adjustments in that direction, right? So I start with it being asynchronous and then make it synchronous, as opposed to the other way around, because I've seen this happen in the typical old-fashioned manner. I call it old-fashioned, but because that's what I've seen for years. Folks just start out building it, so it's all pretty tightly knit, and then you run into issues or different requirements and gaps and whatnot after you go live or after you've been live for a little while, and now you try to make the adjustments, and that's usually more expensive in terms of time, effort, money and whatnot. And I've not actually run into many reasons or many use cases in the real world where doing it in a very distributed manner is actually problematic. I mean, there are certain issues that you have to be items you have to be cognizant of. The more distributed it is, the more hops there are going to be, and depending on the type of service you're able to procure in terms of affordability as a small company, as a startup, or even a larger organization, there might be other cons that come into play, right? So there are some quote-unquote negatives that could come into play, so you want to keep that in mind. But I think you might be generally alright starting out solving problems in an asynchronous distributed manner. What you use to solve that is entirely up to you, right? In our case, we use RabbitMQ in a majority of scenarios, and I will talk about a little bit more about the implementation and what are the variety of activities that we do asynchronously, probably in another video, but hopefully this made some sense. And before I end the video, if you haven't already signed up on snowpal.com, or if you haven't downloaded the iOS or the Android app, please definitely do so. You can use it for anything, right? You can use it for project management at work and school and college, at home. If you're a YouTuber, you can create it to managing all of your video content. If you're a tourist or a traveler and an avid traveler, you can use it for your travels, your vacation plans and whatnot, right? How you use it is left to you. We have plenty of features that will help you do whatever it is that you're going to be wanting to do very efficiently, right? Thanks, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.